everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be creating a dupe of the very popular Prima Marketing Tropicals watercolor set. Now before I get started, I do have a few caveats. The first thing I want to say is that my primary purpose in doing this is simply to recreate the set using paints I already own. I do make note of some pigment questionability in some of the original paint colors and how they're marked as light fast. I don't mind using colors that aren't light fast, but I would prefer that I am aware that they're not light fast before I choose to use them. So I do have some issues surrounding the light fast markings in this set, but overall I think it's a really cute set, and I think that they're targeted for crafters and they're great for that. And if we as professional artists want to use them for professional artwork, then we need to be diligent about our light fast testing. And so for example, PR81, the main pigment in Sunset, is at best not rated. At worst, it is completely fugitive. The other color I noticed was pigment PR57:1. This at best has a medium light fastness, so it could last 6 months to a year on a wall with bright sun potentially before it starts to fade. And that's just a couple of spot checks I did. I looked up those colors on the website artiscreation.com. The owner is David Myers. I tried to find the colors on handprint.com, but many of the pigments weren't even listed there because they're not really common to watercolor. So I just want to encourage you to do your research if you want to use this set, or if you just want to use it in a sketchbook or a journal or something. I think that's fantastic. But for those of us who have professional paints in our collection, who like the idea of these curated sets but don't necessarily trust the quality or content of the sets, I feel like it's pretty easy to build them ourselves. So I set myself the task of building the tropical set using paints I already had in my collection, and this is the process. I just want to make note as I get started here that I did do this process twice, so you'll see two different sets of swatches. The final swatch I'll go through in more detail at the end of the video. So I started here with the Island color, and it's just a standard phthalo green PG7, so I only swatched one color for that. They're all pretty similar. This is the coconut color. The colors in the pigment codes indicate that it's a mixture of yellow ochre, so I pulled the closest yellow ochres I could find and ultimately went with the Senilia yellow ochre because it was PY43 instead of PY42, so I felt like it was slightly closer to the original. That color is Daniel Smith's Monte Amiata Natural Sienna. For the blues, this particular color was a mixture of ultramarine blue and Prussian blue. I felt like it was very close to the other blue in the set, which is Prussian blue. So I pulled an Indanthrene blue, which is actually I think the color that the set was replicating. And for this set, the parrot color, it looked like maybe an azo green. Ultimately, I think I went with the Daniel Smith green gold because I felt, again, it was closer to the color they were portraying in the set. The next color, Hibiscus, actually gave me a bit of trouble because the swatch that they provide on the website doesn't really match the actual color when you paint it out. So I originally swatched out some orange shades. They're pretty standard oranges, and in the end I changed it out for a vermilion, which seemed to match the colors better based on some videos I found. The next color, number 18, Palms, I really only had one color that was close, and that was Phthalo Green Deep from Senilia. This color, Pitaya, I believe, is one of those light fast questionable colors. I ended up using Carmine for my choice, and I think it was a pretty good dupe for that. PV23 is a standard dioxazine purple, no need to replace or change it. I just stuck in whatever dioxazine I had at hand. Pineapple color, PY83. I had a hard time finding that pigment in any of my sets, but I felt like nickel azo yellow was a great substitute, so that's the color I chose. This color, number 22, Sunset, was one of those colors that I found using fugitive pigments. I did actually stick in a fugitive pigment to replace it, the Sennelier Opera Rose. Just remember, these colors are still fugitive. Also with the Prussian blue, again, depending on how it's made, it will go gray in sunlight and then restore its color if you put it in the shade. So some people mark it as light fast, some people don't. Just be aware. This last color I had a bit of trouble with. I ended up subbing in a burnt umber, but I think ultimately the Sennelier Warm Sienna would have been the closest choice. Really, any dark brown would be great in this slot. So after I went through that whole process and swatched out all my colors, I watched another couple of videos swatching the colors on YouTube and realized some of my selections were off a bit because the images on the website were not as accurate as they could have been. So just to review my final color selection, for Island I chose Phthalo Green Yellow shade. I just felt like it would provide a little bit more variation. For Coconut I chose Sennelier's Yellow Ochre. For Hurricane, I chose M. Graham's Anthraquinone Blue. For Parrot, I chose Daniel Smith's Green Gold. Hibiscus is one of those colors I changed out at the last minute, and I chose Sennelier's French Vermilion. For Palms, I stuck with my original choice of Sennelier's Phthalo Green Deep. For Pitaya, I chose Sennelier's Carmine. Any carmine would work great in this slot. For Reef, I used M. Graham's Dioxazine Purple, but any Dioxazine Purple would be great. Daniel Smith's version is called Carbazole Violet. For Pineapple, I used Azo Yellow, Nickel Azo Yellow, Transparent Yellow. It's all PY150. For Sunset, I did use Sennelier's Opera Rose, but if you want to use a less fugitive color, a magenta would be great. Also, a quinacridone rose could work. For Ocean, again, I used Prussian Blue. It's a little bit fugitive depending on the maker, so just be aware. And for 24 Tiki, I went with Sennelier's Van Dyke Brown. But again, I think the Warm Sepia could be a good choice. So here's the final result of my swatches. I hope you enjoyed this exercise and learned a little something. If you did, please like and subscribe. I will hopefully be doing this again with the other Prima watercolor sets in the near future.